Thank you. So I can see that Dinah has finally joined us after a little network problem. So I would like to quickly introduce her again so that she can speak to us. So our next speaker will be Dinah Ofana. She's from the University of Pretoria and Conversational School of Philosophy. She'll be speaking to us on AI discourse in Africa towards a decolonial understanding of AI ethics. Please, Dr. Dinah, you have 15 minutes to speak to us. We are happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for connecting late. I was having a little network problem. I'll just go straight into my talk. I'll just go straight to an overview of AI discourse in Africa. My topic, as rightly introduced by Amara, is AI discourse in Africa towards a decolonial understanding of AI ethics. So in my talk, I want to illustrate the ethics of artificial intelligence in Africa and its influence on Africans' relational experiences in recent years. Arguably, much on the discourse of AI ethics in Africa is heavily influenced by Western perspectives and approaches. So this has contributed to the erosion of the unique cultural, social, and ethical consideration that Africans can or could contribute to the discourse on AI ethics. So to make sense of what decoloniality can contribute to AI ethics in Africa, I intend to show how a decolonial approach can be used as a lens to analyze the issues of AI ethics in Africa. So in doing so, I will illustrate the implication of Western-centered ideology on the values of African people as it shapes the value and systems of most Africans. The proceeding will also unveil the danger of coloniality, will not rather unveil the danger of coloniality, but also highlight ways African values can contribute to a more diverse and equitable global AI landscape. So when analyzing AI discourse in Africa, it is impossible to overlook the varied factors that contribute to the pitfalls experienced in Africa in terms of AI adoptions and usage. One of the major concerns of AI enthusiasts and researchers over time has been on the developmental process of AI inventions globally and in Africa. It is not surprising that the African continent has suffered different setbacks due to colonialism, its exploitative mechanisms that has left Africa impoverished. On the one hand, the preceding claim paints a factual and viable mental picture of the continent of Africa, while on the other hand, one may argue that it is a one-sided and distorted analysis of Africa as a continent because it is a place where the use of AI tools are constant. So take, for example, in social networking, in businesses, in healthcare, in agriculture, in academia. Of course, as discussed in most literature, there are challenges militating against the development of AI in Africa due to insufficient digital literacy, lack of data infrastructure, inadequate policies, and lack of funding. But we can also not overlook the risk of bias, discrimination, responsibility, and climate change. Arguably, like the rest of the world, AI is already changing the reality and culture, and especially the value of most African societies. So we may say that AI startups, research innovations, and the relational experience of people in Africa are greatly influenced by AI. This is because of the changing reality and impact of AI that has continued to erode genuine human contact and relationality, thereby situating a colonized mentality of relatedness. So some AI enthusiasts may highlight China's investment like in manufacturing, agro-industry, telecommunication, infrastructures, and soft power as positive additions to the continent of Africa. Nevertheless, Abeba argues that African interest has continued to be ignored despite it being a site of violence, exploitation, and a key provider of natural resources that are used to develop the Western Bloc. I contend that a context-dependent decolonial framework is necessary to interrogate and unveil the injustices and power dynamics that has continued to exploit and erode African value system through coloniality. So to make sense of AI ethics in Africa, we must first carefully show the areas where and why Africa is failing and the varied intersections that contribute to such failings. So a careful analysis of AI research globally and in Africa reveals research institutions saddled with responsibility to develop ethical principles and guidelines for understanding AI ethics. Hence, they talk on the principle of transparency, justice, and fairness, non-maleficence, responsibility, and privacy. These ethical principles are considered guidelines to shaping the discourse of global ethics. Arguably, one may say the world is a global village, but is Africa indeed included, given the context of African value system? There is no gainsaying that contextually the aforementioned AI principles are traditionally Western-centered. By Western, I mean the underlying ethical principles are mostly drawn from the values and policies of Western Europe, North America, and East Asia. Accordingly, Damian Okabidi argued that the ethical perspective from the global south is largely absent from the discourse of AI ethics. What this means is that the ethical narrative, perceptions, and principles from the global south, particularly Africa, are clearly missing from the global discourse on AI ethics. So the question that most of us will be grappling with will be why? So the general believe that social, cultural, and political context shape expectations of AI, the challenges and risks it poses. Is therefore a problem that stems from the assumption that concepts like bias, human rights, privacy, justice, solidarity, trust, transparency, openness, and fairness are contextual. The preceding is premised on the claim that meaning and scope of concept are contextual also. In the same vein, the cultural values in national and regional policies are mostly drawn and targeted towards people's value system. So now when we talk about AI ethics in Africa, what are we actually talking about? And how can Africa contribute to AI ethics globally? So the context and cultural appurtenances of a people cannot be detached from the values that undergird technological invention and adoption. The preceding claim implies Africans should look inward when adopting AI tools if African value must be taken seriously. I argue that a decolonial ethical framework must consider the context, interests, values, and relationality of a people when discussing AI ethics. More so, AI ethics should consider the varied intersections that has continued to exploit the continent of Africa through mental and relational entrapment. What do I mean by that? Mentally, Africans, we sort of like the idea of artificial intelligence. We use it every single day. We fail to realize how much entrapped we have become in our thoughts, in our relational experiences with others, and how we tend to structure our lives and policies also. Until the social reality of Africans are fully understood and captured in the discourse of AI ethics, the discourse of global AI ethics remains incomplete. The incompleteness and bias, rather, in the discourse on AI ethics would continue if the evils of the past are not accounted for and addressed. One may argue that the concept of responsible AI can or may pass as a decolonial ethical framework that should account for the social reality of Africans and AI usage in Africa. But more needs to be done in terms of conceptualizing and situating context-dependent ethical principles that can account for the social reality of people globally and in Africa. So I'm just going to quickly go to what should a decolonial AI ethics entail. A decolonial AI ethical principle should critically interrogate the impact of AI system on the value system of African people. I contend that personhood-based ethics like the value of relationality should be considered in the drive towards AI adoption. The talk on decolonial AI ethics highlights a significant gap in the literature regarding the implication of AI in Africa and on Africans. On the one hand, AI ethics should consciously interrogate the usage of AI tools as well as the corresponding effects and abuse of AI system in Africa and globally. On the other hand, I recognize that African values may not be homogeneous, but the values of personhood are humanistic and cut across varied sociocultural contexts. The proceeding may not be generally accepted by critics of personhood-based ethical principles. Nevertheless, I propose a unique perspective on AI ethics from an African context, one that recognizes the uniqueness of intentional relatedness to make sense of AI ethics globally. Thus, at the root of a decolonial ethical principle lies the usefulness of AI systems, while considering the humanness that comes with human relationality and intentionality. The proceeding would curtail the misuse and abuse of human relationships while adopting AI tools. I contend that current usage and adoption of AI systems may further erode African value systems without intentionality and relationality. With
Sorry to cut
relationality,
in. Sorry to cut in. Please, you have 5 minutes more.
okay, sure, thank you. With relationality and intentionality in mind, we can begin to explore a decolonial understanding of AI ethics in the face of global revolution. The sustenance of relationality will humanize AI inventions and adoptions in ways that prioritizes human relationships. So to develop a personhood-based ethics, the predominant Western ethical framework should be interrogated in ways that allows for inclusive and integrated ethical frameworks in AI policies. It is important to note that the idea of decoloniality that I argue for does not overlook the varied challenges or limitations in Africa that may hinder Africa from contributing in the design and development of AI systems globally. In light of the fact that AI, like many other technologies, is a Western import, designed and developed with Western-centered values, prejudice, and biases, Africans should consciously contribute towards global AI ethics and miss the setbacks. If the continent of Africa is good enough to use AI tools, I believe Africa can and should contribute to AI ethics globally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dina. You saved us a lot of time. Thank you. Thank you for your insightful lecture. Thank you so much. So